if you forbade the person from moving the mate while he's in the bed, and from moving the mate from bed to bed, the Gemara said that that would be morning answer. Welcome back. The Gemara said if you would forbade the movement of a mate from bed to bed on Shabbat, when there's a fire, we're afraid that people, since they're so distressed, they might come take out the fire. And we said taking out the fire would be a stronger rabbinic prohibition than muksa. So the rabbi said, better allow them to move the mate, which is muksa, the corpse is muksa, to move the mate on Shabbat when there's a fire, in order to prevent the possible greater desecration of Shabbat of taking out fire. We said that there's certain circumstances taking out a fire would be biblical, but by taking out the fire and making a coal as a result of that. Other cases, it's just rabbinic, but the rabbis are concerned about that rabbinic prohibition. They'll waive the prohibition of moving of corpse in order to make sure that they won't violate the stronger prohibition of taking out a fire, which has connection to a biblical prohibition, because sometimes taking out the fire will actually be a prohibited, a Torah prohibition. And the Gemara concluded on top of the page of 44a, 1, Rabbi Yehuda ben Shila, Rav Asim, Rabbi Yochanan, Haloch Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish ben Meit. Now the law follows that opinion of Yehuda ben Lakish, says that they waived the prohibition of mokseh to prevent the person from taking out the fire on Shabbat when the corpse the fire might reach the corpse. That's the halacha. Tana Rabbanan, and I think I saw yesterday also. It says, we say you move it from bed to bed, but the mate from bed to bed. But if you don't have, if you don't have a bed to bed to move, you can actually, pick up the bed and move the mate, move the mate in such a fashion without the bread, exactly. Because here the rabbis were concerned that they would, when I come to want to prevent it, they shouldn't take out the fire. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught Motar Shemen Shebener Shebekara Asur. Right? We had in the Mishnah had stated that you can't place a utensil under a lamp, an oil lamp, to catch the oil on Shabbat. Because if you place the plate to catch the oil, we said you're making now the plate unusable, because now the plate becomes mukseh as a result of that, because it is now holding a mukseh item, because the oil that was in the lamp that was burning was designated for the lamp for Shabbat, and that oil is mukseh, and now the plate that you place underneath the lamp, which catches the mukseh, now that becomes mukseh because it's holding mukseh. Now, the Mishnah said that you can't, if you went ahead and you put the plate underneath the lamp before Shabbat, you could leave it there. You can leave the plate there. You don't have to remove the plate before Shabbat. It can continue to catch the oil. However, but nevertheless, even if the plate catches the oil on the whatever the plate, whatever if catches the oil on Shabbat, you can't benefit from any oil that was caught on Shabbat. Because that oil was not prepared for use, because it was designated for the lamp to be used for burning on the Shabbat. That's what the Mishnah states. You can't benefit from the oil that falls into the plate that's under the lamp. Ezra, is that clear? You got the case? Lamp, oil, wick, plate underneath. If there's a plate underneath that catches the oil, since I had placed it before Shabbat in that lamp on top, It's it's separated from me for use, for permitted use. I'm not using it for my olive oil for my salad. It's olive oil for the lamp. But now it didn't burn up in the lamp. Some of it's dripped down onto a plate. But that even though it dripped down into the plate, but it was separated from my use. That because it was designated for the lamp. So that oil, beautiful, delicious oil, I can't use that oil for my salad. Okay, that's what the Mishnah stated. Now comes the Gemara on 44a1 on top of the page. So it's a Tanrabonan. We had a brighter. Motah Hashem shebener shebekara. So what's with the leftover oil? Not that it dripped out of the lamp and fell into the plate underneath. It just left in the lamp, right? You ever see your menorah? You have oil that's left over in your menorah. So here you have a menorah for Shabbat, let's say. You know, many people use oil menorah for Shabbat. Maybe it's not so common, but it's, there are people that use not menorah, oil lamp. That's similar to menorah for Shabbat, right? You've seen that, right? They light the candles, lighting wax candles. They light oil for Shabbat, right? And the fire went out, and the cup still contains oil. Can I take that? What's the status with that leftover oil that's in the cup? It's just it should be the same thing as the oil that dripped out. But that oil that I had in the cup that's left over, I also intended that oil should burn. Right? That's why I put that oil in the cup. I didn't put extra oil in the cup because whatever's left over, I'll take for my salad. No, that wasn't my intention, right? Ezra, was that my intention? No. My intention was I put the oil in the cup that it should burn. So now that's separated from me, from use. And when the oil is in the cup, I would not be able to remove the oil while it's lit on the Shabbat, because removing oil will dim the fire, let's say, because when you have less oil, it's not as bright. We'll see that. We'll see that in the Gemara. About that. So the Gemara says, whatever's left over in the lamp, asur. You can't use that on Shabbat. You can't use it for your salad. But however, Rabbi Shimon Matir. Rabbi Shimon had a more lenient opinion than Mokseh. He says, we had this before Rabbi Shimon. He says to reach level of Mokseh, you need a higher level, to reach Mokseh. Meaning that would not be enough. The fact that you had placed it in the menorah, in the lamp before Shabbat, that would not be enough to make it Mokseh. And just to clarify a little bit, we'll see there are certain circumstances Rabbi Shimon would agree is Mokseh. Rabbi Shimon would agree that, but we'll have to see as we go along in the Gemara which circumstances Rabbi Shimon would agree. It's not that he doesn't hold of Mokseh. He only holds of certain types of Mokseh, certain types of, I think the Gemara says if you take Grogorot, Simugim, you take certain fruits, or you take favorite fruits and you put it on the roof, and the fruits are not edible as is because it's not ripened, and it's not so ripened, and it's not so edible. We have to see what the level of, and you made the move that you actually put it on the roof. You actually actively removed it from your mindset. But if you didn't leave it on the counter, you put it on the roof. So that, I think, is one of the examples that Reb Shimon would agree would be mukseh. But a case like this, when the oil is edible oil, it's not that there was an issue with the oil with the food. It's ready for salad use. Except I placed it to be used for burning. So as long as it's burning, I would not be able to use it. But once the fire goes out, I can go in and use that oil. That will be Reb Shimon's opinion. Not that that's the halacha, you know what I'm saying? But that's Reb Shimon's opinion. But then you have the other question. We have a rule. I want to get out the Shulchan Aruch. We have a rule that something that was mukseh bein hashmashot, that was separated from you during the Shabbat enter, it's mukseh. Then it becomes mukseh for the whole Shabbat, right? That's the rule that we have, right? Something was mukseh before, during when Shabbat came, then it should be mukseh the whole Shabbat. And when Shabbat came, this oil was being used as a fuel for the fire. Rav Shimon would agree that it would be forbidden to you to handle it during that time period when Shabbat entered. So then, why shouldn't it be um, forbidden for the whole Shabbat? Why, by the fact that the fire goes out? So he doesn't agree with this rule that something that's mukseh when Shabbat enters remains mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Meaning, remember, we gave a case. Let's say you have a table and there's money on the table, and you intended to keep the money on the table, or you have the candlesticks that you burnt for the candles for Shabbat on the table. So the candlesticks are a mukseh that you burnt. They used to burn the fire. The table is supporting the candlesticks. So we said if you put challah on the table before Shabbat, so now the table is not just supporting the candlesticks; it's supporting the challah also. And then when the candlesticks go out, you could then move the table. But if you would not have any challah on the table, so let's you have just a beer table with some candlesticks on it. Let's say if that would be the case. So then the table is supporting mukseh. And let's say subsequently the cleaning lady Friday night after the candles went out, she moved the sticks off the table. She wanted to clean the table. She moved off the table. Can I move the table now that the candlesticks aren't on the table? So we say, since when the Shabbat came, since you didn't have any challah on the table, then the table is just supporting mukseh, and even if it would be it's supporting mukseh, and we say that since it's mukseh during the onset of Shabbat, it remains mukseh the whole Shabbat. You will not be able to move that table, so even though the mukseh item is no longer on the table. But once this is mukseh, the table is mukseh when Shabbat ended, it's mukseh for the whole Shabbat. So and you can't move it. But not everybody agrees to that concept. Reb Shimon holds that the fact that it was mukseh when Shabbat came, the oil, does not necessarily make it mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Therefore, when the fire goes out, I can go ahead and use the oil. Because when Shabbat entered, it was, they put the point to make the point. I mentioned the point that the oil was useful. It was ready to use. So I decided not to use it for that time period. The fact is, I knew that it would be usable. That oil would be usable. Like I said, it's edible oil for the Shabbat. So therefore, it does not become mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Now, let's continue. That is the machloket between the Tanakama and Rabbi Shimon. Okay. Now I took out the Mishnah Berurah. Let's take a look in the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Rish Samach Hey, Fifth Gimel. He says, he says you can't put a plate on Shabbat to catch the oil, and if you did, and the oil that drips down, it went into the plate you can't use. Let's see the other halacha. Siman Rish Ayin Tet, Siv Aleph. What about our case? of the leftover um, leftover moda shemesh shebeneh, the leftover oil in the lamp that you use that Shabbat to light, you're not allowed to go ahead and move it and use that oil. So that's the halacha. Um, okay, so the Chafetz Chaim says, because we hold that once it was mukseh when Shabbat ended, it's mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Okay, let's continue in the Gemara. New Mishnah, Metaltalin Ner Chadash. I have an earthenware lamp, right? Lamp means it's oil, has wick, has flame. That sorry, that's the lamp that you use. A lamp we made is a lamp that we use for oil and wick and flame. But I never used it yet. I just went to the store and I bought a new lamp that I'm going to use. It's like a new menorah, so to speak. A Shabbat. I bought a candlestick. But it's made out of earthenware, and we're going to see what's unique about earthenware in a moment. So comes the first opinion, and he says that even though this lamp is good, you bought a lamp, you bought like a menorah, and you're going to use it on Shabbat um, to light your Shabbat candles, but you never used it yet. You never used it yet. So now, on the one hand, it has it is going to be used for forbidden purposes, right? So, well, would you say that this is a utensil that's going to be used for forbidden purposes? I didn't yet use it yet. So this opinion, we'll have to see what the halacha is. But this opinion says, as long as you never used it, you could go ahead and move it on the Shabbat. It's not mukseh. Metaltal nechadash. Avolo yoshan. But if it is, um, but if it's an old, I mean, see, Rashi says it's new and it's still, it's still, it's still proper for you. You don't look at it in a very negative way because an earthenware lamp, once it's lit once, it's not, the lamp itself becomes very repugnant, if that's the right word, mius. And this opinion says that would be like disgusting to you, and therefore that you would not be able to move such a thing, um, even if you don't plan on using it for Shabbat. You didn't light it for that Shabbat, but once it was used, it would be a status of mukseh. So therefore, but if it's new, this opinion says you can move it, avolo yashan, but not if it's old. Now, and what would you use it? What could you use this lamp for? So you know what? I'll put some candies in it. They could put some candies in this lamp, this that was never used before. You could store candies, but so it has use. And since it was never used, this opinion says you're allowed to use it. But if it was once used, so now because of the oil that was absorbed into the lamp, you will not use it for other things. You will not use it for good morning. You won't use it for putting candies into this lamp. So it's only used for forbidden purposes of fire, which I can't do on Shabbat. Um, an old lamp is only used for lighting, according to this opinion. And since lighting is forbidden on Shabbat, therefore it is real. It's a real situation of mukseh. However, Rabbi Shimon says, Kol hanerot metaltalin, chutz mimnei hadolik b'Shabbat. He says that's not a problem. The fact that oil gets absorbed into the menorah, into the lamp, and it's earthenware, which is not so pretty, which is not so nice for use. That the fact that it's not so people don't like to use it, it has that concept. But the fact is, it has use. I could put candies in it. It might not be so nice. It might be something that generally I don't like to use because of its status of mius of you know it doesn't it's not so pretty. It's not so it's not such a good taste to use. People don't like to use it for other things generally, but it has that ability to be used for other things. It's just that its status that it's not that it's a little bit repugnant, if that's the right word, is why I generally won't use it for other things. But that he doesn't hold. Rabbi Shimon says that's not a level of mukseh. It has use. So, like gave you the example of the fruit that's not ripened. It's not useful. The oil, the menorah, the Shabbat lamp that has use, but just it's like it's a little disgusting, right? If that's the right word, it's disgusting. This lamp is disgusting to use for other things because of the way of the earthenware. That's not enough to say that now that I want to use it for some permitted use, that it's separated from me enough to say that that will be deemed mukseh. You hear what he's saying?
Reasoning, is Shimon's reasoning that he just doesn't believe that anyone would ever use it for another reason, or that the probability of that is too low, and therefore it's just too high of a risk, realistically, that they would use it to light?
Right. So the Tanakama, right? Rav Shimon says Rav Shimon's more lenient. He says it's all right. You could put the candies in there.
Right.
But the Tanakama, the first opinion of the Mishnah is saying that the fact that generally, like you said, people won't use it for other uses than lighting. It's basically like a phone, exactly. In a
Right,
sense, it might even be worse than a phone,
because you'd be making an actual fire.
or because maybe a phone I might use to to hold down a napkin that maybe might blow away. So but perhaps, but this lamp, but I don't usually I stay away from it. I think meaning there could be some permitted uses that maybe a person might use a phone with, not just for the purpose of making a telephone call. I might use the phone for some other purpose. I might not, but something that's just like so a disgusting type of item that's really, you know, it was used. It's a dirty type of. It looks dirty to me because of the earthenware combination of earthenware and the fire that it was lit once.
It's more unrealistic. It's highly unrealistic.
Right. And therefore it would maybe perhaps be even a higher level of muksa than the phone. Because or the hammer, like we said, the hammer, I can move a hammer if I want to use a hammer to crack a walnut on Shabbat. Even though a hammer is a muksa item, I can't move a hammer on Shabbat because the sun is beating down on the hammer. That's not sufficient reason to move the hammer. But if I need the place where the hammer is, I want to eat on the table where the hammer was left, or I need to crack a walnut, I could move the hammer for that use. But it could be that it would sound like from the Pnei Yeshua that this, according to the first opinion of the Mishnah, this is only going to be used for lighting. It's not like a hammer that is a multi-purpose type of item, even though it's generally not. The general use is forbidden. A hammer is generally used to what? Not to crack walnuts, but to bang nails. So therefore, it's identified as a kli, a utensil, shemelachto, that its work is isur. It's used for forbidden purposes, just like a cell phone is used for forbidden purposes. But it has other uses that might be permitted uses that person might use the hammer for. Like I said, to crack a walnut. But this lamp, it seems like, has no uses that a person would use this lamp other than um, lighting purposes. So therefore, it might sound like it might be even a higher level mukseh.
That is it. Yeah. Does the fact that the use of the lamp would be a very high level of does that change the calculation as well, in addition to being unrealistic, or is there no concept of hierarchy of worse melatonin? Like,
Right. That's a good point. Um, we'll have to see more. What we do have is we have something called, you see, if you have a utensil that's used for one type of prohibited act, or another utensil that's used for another prohibited act, but one prohibited act is rabbinic and one's Torah level, they would still be both classified as mukseh. I don't know if that would make a difference in the category mukseh, but there is something called mukseh mahmat isur. That means the category here we're worried about is that there's also this concept that you might do, if you move it, a sin might be the act of movement in itself. You're refraining from moving it because the movement would be a sin. Meaning, if I move this lamp, let's say when the lamp is on, see, that would be the case. If the lamp would be on, then your situation would apply. If the lamp is on, then maybe why wouldn't I move the lamp? See, the lamp that's on, let's say, there's two situations. There's a lamp that was not used on Shabbat. We'll discuss that type of lamp that you didn't use the Shabbat. Rabbi, can I put my candy in the lamp? We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about a lamp that is on, meaning Reb Shimon, who says that the lamp, if you have an old lamp, or Rabbi Shimon would say, you have even a lamp that you used on Shabbat. I used this lamp on Shabbat. While the lamp is on, Rabbi Shimon would agree you can't move the lamp. Why not? Because if I move the lamp when the lamp is on, what might happen as the fire might go out. So the movement of the lamp I might be doing a sin, the actual movement by extinguishing the fire. But once the lamp goes out, the fire goes out, Rabbi Shimon says, you can move the lamp. So Rabbi Shimon is going to say, listen, the lamp, the only time it's mukseh is when the fire is on burning. The fire is burning from before sunset. So from the time sunset comes, once Shabbat comes, morning. Shabbat comes and the lamp is on for another 2 hours, the Shabbat lamp. I can't, Rabbi Shimon says it's mukseh. I can't move the lamp for those 2 hours. But 2 hours later, when it goes out at 10 o'clock at night, he says you can move the lamp because you're not going to be doing a sin of extinguishing. There's no sin, there's no prohibition that you're being violating there's no actual prohibition you're violating by moving the lamp. You're not extinguishing. It's just the rabbis want to prevent you. Don't move the lamp unless you go ahead. What's the issue then of moving the lamp? I'm not doing a sin by it's not a concern that I might be violating the Shabbat by moving the lamp, the actual movement. Maybe if I move the lamp, maybe I'll carry it outside. Or maybe if I move the lamp, if I handle everything on Shabbat, I might I'll lose the flavor of Shabbat. It might be like a weekday. But it's not that inherently I might be causing a sin by that momentary movement. Make me clear? Because when you have a lamp on, everybody agrees you can't move that lamp. When the lamp is off, That's where it's subject to discussion. But the law would be, good morning, Steve. The law would be that since it was mukseh when Shabbat came, everybody agrees when the Shabbat was on, the lamp was mukseh. So I don't. The fact that it goes out later on would still be mukseh. The lamp would still be mukseh, just like the oil. We just saw the law about the oil. The oil, when the lamp was on, the oil was mukseh. It was forbidden for me to handle. Because if I take the oil out when the lamp is on, I'm extinguishing I'm making the fire lower. I'm loosening the strength of the fire. Now that the fire went out and it's 10 p.m. and now I want to have a salad for tomorrow morning, can I take the oil out 10 o'clock at night, the olive oil from the lamp? We say no. The fire's out. Rabbi Shimon would say, no problem. Take out the oil. You're not the light is the fire's out. You're not doing a sin by taking out the oil. You're preventing a Torah violation that moment by taking out the oil. But by taking, you're not doing anything. The only thing is now there's a concern. There's only a rabbinic issue here going on. That the rabbis might want to create would the rabbis say that since I was not thinking about it, I was separated in my mind from it from before Shabbat, is that enough for me to say I can't use it for the whole Shabbat? So Rosh Hashanah says, no, what's the problem? Move it. What are you doing? You're just moving it. You're not taking out a fire. The fire's out. The other opinion says, no, it's true. I'm not, what am I doing? What sin am I doing by moving the lamp or the oil after the fire goes out? Rabbi, what am I doing? What of the 39 malachot, what are the 39 things am I doing? The answer is you're right. You're not doing any of the 39 malachot. But the rabbis say you still shouldn't handle it once you weren't handling it before Shabbat because it was designated for use for the menorah. Rabbi Shimon says that's not enough. That's not enough for me not to, good morning, Kevin. That's not enough for me not to use it. So we're learning, Dr. Kevin, just to recap, we're ending right now, but just to recap, we're learning about mukseh. We're learning about the concept how there's different opinions in the Gemara, whether at what point would something be considered mukseh, forbidden for me to move handle on Shabbat, and or allowance. So you can have a situation, according to Reb Shimon, that when Shabbat came, I was not allowed to take out oil from the lamp that's burning. But later on at night, when the lamp goes out, I could take out the oil, according to Reb Shimon. The other opinion says no. But since when Shabbat came, I couldn't take out the oil. It was mukseh from when Shabbat entered. So the rule is something that's mukseh when Shabbat enters remains mukseh, forbidden for the whole Shabbat. So I want to wish everyone a great day. And every word of Torah, Dr. Rosen, one word of Torah about mukseh is an important thing that everyone should be careful on Shabbat. By the way, thank you very much. Someone asked me about putting something yesterday in a certain drawer. So I was thinking maybe I should have put it there because, hey, there's mukseh in the drawer. Now I'm getting to myself, good, now I have a permitted item in the drawer, a not permitted item in the drawer. Then you have to know what's more important and why should I open up a drawer that has mukseh and non-mukseh. You want for Shabbat, separate the mukseh and the non-mukseh items. Have a great day, everybody. You too. Yeah, looking forward. Thank you. Have a great day. You have to bring your friends from Englewood.
Yes.
Tell them I asked for him.
Okay, we'll do.
You know what I'm talking about.
He's downstairs.
Yeah?
I'll tell him that he should have come. He could have had 5 minutes. Yeah.
Tell him we missed him.
All right. All right.
All right. Yes. All right. Yes.
I'll tell him, thank you. Like I said, each word is just